happening on another special edition of the miEverest Owners Chat for this Thursday night. We look forward to it. The countdown well and truly on to what is the richest race on turf, the $15 million Tab Everest. And at this stage, over 1,200 metres, the 12 slots, and there's only 3 gone. So there's still 9 slots available, and there is every sprinter in the world trying to get a position in one of those 9 slots. Now, when we chatted with Daniel O'Sullivan, our form expert, only a few weeks ago, he identified that one of the 5 outsiders that he really liked was a horse called Peltzer, trained by Gerald Ryan, who's currently having a little bit of trouble, I've got to say. He's back with us, which is terrific news with his phone. And there's some good news for Gerald and also for Sterling Alexiou, who joins us, along with David Raphael, because Gerald joins us. And Gerald, good time for you, mate. Congratulations. You've got a training partner now.
Yeah, that's right, Terry. Probably only made official what's been happening for the last 3 or 4 years.
Off to a bad start too, mate. I hear there was no winners for him today. That's his fault.
No winners today. No, still run all right. Can't win all the time.
No. Sterling, we should say hello to you, mate. I know hardcore racing fans will know you, but obviously to be a co-trainer now instead of a stable foreman. Firstly, mate, congratulations.
Thank you, Terry. Much appreciated, and very excited to for the opportunity.
Yeah. Obviously, a long time in the making as well, mate. Plenty of hard work.
Yeah, plenty of hard work, but plenty of people work hard in the industry and don't get the opportunity I've been afforded. So, I appreciate Gerald for letting me do it alongside of him.
Yeah, we'll certainly get into that. And also a man who's making his mark in the bloodstock injury. He made his mark as a world traveller before that, and also a little bit of racing commentary as well, is David Raphael, who joins us as well. Hi, David.
Hey, Terry. Good to speak, TK, and everybody. And wrapped to see Sterling and Gerald officially be able to blame the other person for a bad performance and take all the credit if it's their good performance going forward.
Yeah, it is one of my favourite quotes, that success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. And I think when you get that training partnership, that's it. And David, firstly, I'll get to Sterling and also Gerald, but I want to hear about your story, in particular the way there's always a great, behind every stable door, there's a really good story to a horse. And I think, you've sort of found this horse.
Well, I suppose collectively we all liked him. We do the same thing every year. We all go to the sales, and Magic Millions, as everybody is full aware, is a really big sale and a lot of horses. And I try and get there, 8 to 9 days before. And I still remember the first time I saw this horse. It was the first day of the parades. And the team at Mill Park had just arrived, and they were walking their horses around. And Chris, who we've raced a horse with before from Mill Park, Chris Watson and his father and family, I just stood there watching these horses walk around for 5 minutes, and I couldn't take my eyes off Peltzer. And I think Sterling will say the same. Gerald will probably say the same thing as well. But he was the one horse that I kept coming back to, and actually rang my wife. I said, I've got up here on Tuesday. I think I can come home because I found a horse. I'll be surprised if I find another one that I like as much as him, which is probably a stupid thing to say at the first day of looking, but that's the way it worked out for all of us. And anybody that saw the horse first time that's involved in our circle, they all seem to say the same thing about him. He turned up at the spelling farm where we send a lot of horses, and the immediate words were, wow, how'd you find this horse? He's got something about him, and he's proven it on the track that he does.
Yeah, he certainly has. Gerald, I'll ask you first up before I get to Sterling, but were you instantly impressed by Peltzer of course wasn't Peltzer then, but Peltzer as a yearling up there on the Gold Coast?
Well, David, as you said, was up there before, and Sterling went up on the Friday, and I'd done the races at Randwick on the Saturday, I think. And then I went up on the Saturday night, but they'd rung me during the day, and Sterling said, we found a really cracking So You Think, but it's by So You Think. And I said, so? He doesn't know that. But then when we saw him, Mill Park, they always have a terrific draft, and the two we really loved there was the So You Think Colt and the Snitzel filly, which turned into be Kieran Mars filly. That was the best filly during the year.
Yeah, away game. Yeah.
Away game.
turned out to be an absolute beauty, and just missed out on that as well. Sterling, first impressions there with Peltzer. Obviously, Gerald mentions So You Think, and for some of our viewers who aren't that familiar, So You Think, normally their horses get better with age and get over a bit of ground, not normally that early coming, sprinting 2-year-old. So you obviously were impressed.
Yeah, from the first moment I seen him, what got me straight away was his walk, big loose walk, and he was a physically imposing yearling by So You Think, which you come sort of, they're few and far between. There's normally a bit more finer and mature as they get older, but he was big, strong colt, and he's gone on to be quite a nice racehorse now, and hopefully he goes on to better things as well.
Gerald, you took him down to Kembla. I think that was back in April. It may well have been, and for his first win, he's had 3 starts but 3 wins. You can't do much more than that. Was that just an easy kill down there? Was that a bit of an education to try and smell that victory of success?
Yeah, it was. Originally, we were going to go to 1,100 metre race at Warwick Farm. And I rang, because Kieran had ridden him in a trial, and I rang Kieran, and his manager said there's always going to be a good race. There's a couple of anti-2-year-olds going there, so I decided to go to Kembla the day before. And it was all the education for him there.
Yeah. David, it's always smart to give one of these young horses a win first up. They learn that sort of success and then hopefully develop from there. And that's certainly how the way, it's played out for Peltzer.
Yeah, I suppose it's easy to say that. We're always trying to win a race first up. But I think the guys would agree that before he even trialled, we knew that he was a horse that was well above average ability. And to be commercial, most people want to see them jump on the bridle and, win their trial by a couple of lengths. I hope I'm not getting blown away in the wind here that's popped up. And in his trials, he was not the typical, jump to the front, run 2-year-old. He was supposed being a So You Think. He did what most people would have thought, and that was, off the speed and follow. And when he went to Kembla Grange, it was extraordinary that he opened up at 20 to 1. I mean, we all thought that he was a horse that could go really well, but had some concerns about the distance, of course, that we didn't think at that time would be his best. But I mean, he did what we thought he would do in his trials. He overperformed in his races, and his first up day, I think it just cemented the thought that Gerald and Sterling had of him from day one.
Gerald, the final victory, I mentioned 3 starts there for Peltzer and 3 victories. It doesn't get any better than that, the perfect record. And the final start, I think whenever a horse like that wins, someone goes, what about the Everest? And you were pretty keen to push the burro on that occasion. You're still thinking Everest with this horse?
Golden Rose first TK, the horse has got to prove himself, and he looks good and he looks impressive, but taking late autumn, early winter form into the spring can be a bit dangerous. But you don't want to get overboard. My main aim at the moment is get to the Golden Rose and play it by ear after that.
All right. In saying all of that, does he give you the impression, I mean, a horse when it goes from 2 to 3 makes that graduation. What sort of, because you've had some pretty nice 2-year-olds to come 3-year-olds in the past, like Snitzel and Minari and Trapeze Artist. Can you make any sort of comparison between, how he's developed now as a 3-year-old with those sort of classy horses?
When we start jumping 2-year-olds out on the course proper down the back straight, and from where I clock them from the 1,500 down to the 1,000 metres, I've got my own pegs, and I've only ever had 4 2-year-olds break 30 for that 500 and bit metres, One was Snitzel himself, the next one was Snitzel, then it was Rubick, and now this horse. And that's why I've always thought this horse was a sprinter, and he defies his pedigree and he won't get ground because he's too fast. And that's how I compare him,
Geez, that's a great
in all fairness to Minari and Trapeze Artist, Trapeze Artist was never a quick horse over 500 or 600 metres, and Minari was. But at that time of the year, Minari wasn't in work to compare him, so you can't compare them. I'm talking October, November, that time of the year. There's no use comparing them in January or February because the tracks are a lot firmer and a lot harder.
So we've seen Peltzer come back, and has he still got that electric speed that you saw as a youngster?
I think so. We've you tried to curb it a little bit because, like, when he went to his first win at Randwick, we didn't expect him to lead, and Kieran rode him, and he jumped a length in front. Well, he done the right thing, done the best thing you do, let him lead. And then in the 1300, well, once again, he got into the race where he began so quick and there wasn't a genuine leader in the race, so he took it up. Both jockeys who have ridden him in races, both Jay and Kieran, have both reckoned he'd be a better horse for sit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You don't hear that very often. I don't think I've been around a while. Haven't heard this horse is too quick, which is a wonderful thing to have. Sterling, how much say do you get now? You're the co-trainer, not the stable foreman. Do you get, it'd be lovely to have an Everest runner and have a winner of the Everest. And we've got, in the miEverest campaign and the slot holders, we've got the majority of those slot holders now sold. So you'll get to party with around, I reckon, 2,000 to 3,000 people if you can win the race.
Well, it'd be nice, but as Gerald said, at this stage, the main aim's beating the Golden Rose. And, after he went in the paddock, after that win at Randwick, that's always been the aim. That's why we didn't take him up for the race in Brisbane, the JJ Atkins. So, I mean, his whole preparation's been aimed around going towards the Golden Rose, but anything's up for grabs after that. Love to get to secure a spot for him in the Everest, but the horse will tell us, and hopefully he wins the Golden Rose and comes through it really well, and we can freshen him up for an Everest. But we'll see. Yeah, we're doing after the Golden Rose.
Yeah, David. I mean, you've been all around the world, the great racetracks of the world. The Everest is something uniquely special, isn't it? $15 million race, the richest on turf, over 1,200 metres, 70 seconds. And on this occasion, there's going to be the normal everyday Australian going to be able to be a slot holder as well, and take on the sheiks and the barons of the sport. It's a wonderful concept. It's been a wonderful race, and it's only in its fourth year. It's really quite amazing to think a normal everyday Aussie now is going to have a slot in the Everest, and we'll have to just find a horse.
Yeah, I'm happy I'm just one of those ordinary everyday Aussies that's had a slot in the Everest before. We were really lucky to be involved with Deploy in the very first running. And, he didn't perform to the level that, the fairy tales are made of. But to me, it was a fairy tale to be involved in a race like that. It's not every day you can say you've got a runner in a $14 million race. It's 14 million, I think. 14 or 15? 14.
It's 15
15, sorry, 15. There was 14 then.
Don't worry, you'll be counted.
Yeah, I know what the excitement level was like, but in all seriousness, racing is definitely, by some people, looked at as a sport that's not accessible for them. But I'm living proof that that's not true, because I'm just a normal guy that's done my job and worked my way through, or scratched through all the way, and somehow I've got involved with horses. And I can rightfully say, through Gerald and Sterling and all the team, and blaming myself as well for the slow ones, but we've had some horses that have changed our lives, and some of those have been the 30 and 40 grander that's been sold overseas, or a horse like this horse. It's not many things in the world you can say. You can join the golf club, or you can join the swimming club, or whatever, and your life can be changed from it. And you can also have times that money can't buy. And I think that's one of the great things I like about racing. I love the big days and the media days that I had, but to be involved like this is something that you really can't normally go out and buy. You've got to take a punt, and I suppose you can buy a slot of it, but the excitement and the feeling of it, buying that doesn't do it. You can't get it from a night at a restaurant or a night out with your favourite girl or whatever. It's something very different than that.
Yeah, it is. It's the greatest thrill you can possibly have, and it is pretty cool with the miEverest campaign. You can still get involved, by the way. Majority of micro slots are sold, but you can still go to myrunners.com and get involved with the miEverest campaign. And, it's quite unique that your very, very first foray into racehorse ownership could be in the richest race on turf, which is a $15 million Tab Everest. So it's quite remarkable. Gerald, what about the preparation, the training of the horse? When do you sort of have to change a preparation to get towards an Everest after the Golden Rose, or you just get to the Golden Rose first, then you worry about what's after that?
Well, we've been fortunate that, like, this is the fourth running, and we could have our third runner in it. We had Deploy. His preparation was changed to run in it.
Yep.
Wasn't ideal in hindsight, but It was just having the horse in the race and the build up and hype into it and all that. And then the next year we had Trapeze Artist. His preparation was aimed around it all the time. And while a couple of people thought he was disappointing leading into it, he still ran second on a heavy 10 track, which as a rule he didn't handle it, you know. And just, if you get to a race like the Golden Rose and you happen to win it and he got into the race, well, he would go a month between runs and freshen him up and have him going into it fresh. But because you couldn't afford to do the preparation, he's had to have another run in between time because, you know, you just might take the edge off him. But, you know, you just have to have him spot on the day, and you've got to have him better than he is on the day, because when you look at the field, people say, oh, it's only nature strip in it. You've got Kalalik, Classic, Legend, Booverak, Farnham, you know, you could just go on and on and on. And it's a very good race. I hope that we are going into it with 2,000 other people. It'd be terrific, you know.
I can tell you what, they will lift the lid off Randwick. There's no doubt about that, which is fantastic. And Gerald, I guess you know, often say, oh, Gerald Ryan, he's a great trainer of 2-year-olds, which belies the fact that you're obviously just a great trainer overall. But mate, what is it about 2-year-olds that you seem to go well with them and they seem to go well with you? I mean, what is it? Is there something? Because your record's outstanding.
Oh, we sort of try and label the ones that we think will get there early. Like we've turned 2 $1 million colts out in the last month because they need a bit of time. And I just think when you put them all through the system early, you pick the ones that are going to be early. You pick them, you know. We've got this year Sterling about 58 or 60 babies, and I would say out of all them, I could probably only honestly say that there's only 4 real early ones that you'd be aiming at the breeders and the gym crack, you know. But as far as being a 2-year-old trainer, I don't know, it just happens, you know. But no, I've won Oaks, I won Derbies and all that. You know, I love training Stayer, but I always say, people say you go well with 2-year-olds. We buy most of our own yearlings. But you go to Magic Millions and you go to Easter, you always get told, oh, find me a Magic Million winner, find me a Golden Slipper winner. You don't get asked, find me a Derby winner.
No.
So we just go there, and they're the type of horses we buy. Like, you could go on page and say Peltzer could be a Derby winner or 2,000 metre Guineas winner, but on type, he's not. He's a running 2-year-old, you know, or better 3-year-old. Yeah, he's not that. And they're the type of horses we buy, so that's probably why you end up with the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds you end up with, you know.
Sterling, I guess the stable's going enormously well and always does, but our form expert is Daniel O'Sullivan, who's an outstanding judge, and his reputation growing all the time. And we did one of these webinars a few weeks ago, and he pinpointed 5 horses away from the obvious favourites, right? The Everest, that to keep an eye on. Obviously, Peltzer was one, and another one of your runners, Standout, was another. Now, Peltzer's around that $26 mark at tab.com.au, and I think Standout's around, you know, $50, $60 for the Everest. But how's Standout?
Yeah, no, Standout's going very well this preparation. As we spoke before, we all linked up here, and you know, he won in very good fashion in the hand canter on the expressway last preparation, and then just went missing his next couple of runs. He didn't handle a wet track, and his last run before he went out, he ran on another wet track and pulled up with a few issues post race. But look, he's in fine fettle at the minute. He had a very easy trial the other day with Nashra Willer riding. He'll have another trial in about 10 days, and then you'll see him in the shorts first up, where you'll see the majority of everyone vying for those available Everest slots will be running in the shorts, I'd suggest. So you'll definitely see where he fits in the scheme of things.
And David, that's one of the great things about the Everest. I mentioned, you know, it's all over in 70 seconds, but all part of it is the fact that, you know, the slot holders have to find a horse, and the owners have to find the slot holders to get their horse in there. The horse trading of the Everest is nearly as fascinating as the race itself. And we mentioned races coming up very shortly, like the Shorts and the San Domenico, where, you know, you don't know whether you jump in as a slot holder and take the horse before they run, because if they run and run well or win, everyone's going to be after them, and there's only 9 remaining slots.
There's so many variables, and I don't know who's got the most power, the owner of the horse or the owner of the slot. It's probably the owner of the horse, because, you know, we've got a hot favourite, and he obviously did a great deal commercially with, you know, those green colours of the tab carrying it. But for anybody else, there's so many variables. I mean, you've got one slot owner that owns his own horse, and that's why he bought the slot. We've got a couple of commercial entities. We've got a sales company, and then we've got a whole group of people that are investors, whether they're stud farms or bigger group of owners. So all that wheeling and dealing is the stuff that nobody sees, but it is an intriguing part of the race. And to me, that's probably why it will continue to be such an important race and a big race in the future, because it will make sure that we get the best of the best. And it's not just because of the money, it's because of the other aspects of it, like the stud deal, you know. Yes, by Rubick. He's at stud, and a big part of that is because of his Group 1 2-year-old win, but it is because of the Everest. And it's going to become an even more important race in the future.
Yeah, you're going to have to think so. We've actually got a panel to try and pick the horse for our slot, the miEverest slot, and that panel is obviously Daniel O'Sullivan, Mark Waugh, Lizzie Jelfs and Ty Anglin. So they're the people that these horses have to impress going forward. David just mentioned Gerald and Sterling, a horse that you probably see every morning there at Rosehill Gardens in Nature Strip. And we saw this barrier trial. It was an absolute procession the other morning, but I know the horse has impressed everybody. Nature Strip, I think it's now into, it's hard to believe, it's now into a $2.80 favourite, tab.com.au for the Tab Everest. Gerald, you see the horse every morning. Impressed?
Looks very well, looks very healthy. He's stronger. You watch him work, you would never think he'd race the way he works, because he just goes out there, just does his thing. And I watched James on him, McDonald on him one morning. He was hunting him along to get him to go 3/4 pace. He's just amazing. But once those gates open, he's totally different, you know.
Sterling, you probably would have seen the barrier trial as well, and obviously see Nature Strip every morning as well. Quite impressive. And have those bad manners sort of gone away for Nature Strip? He used to be a bit, boom or bust, wasn't he?
Yeah, he seems to have curbed that aggressiveness to some extent. But look, I seen him in the flesh there after that trial there on the other day, and you know, he looks very well. I imagine he's going into the Concord pretty finely tuned, ready to win. And the only thing I must say, I did hear somewhere he was going to the Premier, which is only 2 weeks out from the Everest, and I was having a bit of a look through his form. I note that there's probably he's only run 2 weeks before he's won before, and in his last 2 preparations, and they've all come in fails. So, you know, most of his better runs have come on the back of 3 weeks and 4 week freshens up between runs. So, you know, not that I'm second guessing Chris Waller at all, but you know, it's just interesting when you read back through his form that all those explosive wins have come on the back of 3 week and 4 week let ups.
Yeah.
The only thing with Terry, the only thing with Nature Strip, he hasn't met Peltzer yet, has he?
No.
Exactly. Now we're talking.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, right. And we all know the racing industry is a funny game, just because that was as good a barrier trial, I think, as I've ever seen.
Yeah, probably was too, yeah.
He's just a jet.
And we can all say, oh, yeah, but geez, you don't want to be going that good at this time of your preparation.
No. Well, I think the biggest thing in the horse's favour is his ability to handle wet tracks as well. Because nothing can match his speed on a wet track and absorb the pressure that he can sort of dish out. So, you know, if you see a heavy track like Red Zell one on last year, you know, it's hard to see anything that's going to go with him and sort of give a kick and be strong with him late.
Yeah, I guess, David, that's an added bonus, isn't it? Peltzer, three starts, 3 wins, and has won on both the wet and the dry, and you just never know what you get on October 17th.
I think the best thing about any good racehorse that I've seen is their attitude to run through the line. And Nature Strip's got it, Peltzer's got it. I mean, all the good horses all around the world, Melbourne Cup winners, jumpers. It's the way they savage the line. I think that's what separates good from bad. And I think that's quietly what Gerald and Sterling are going to say it out loud. And I'm happy to say it. That's what I'm quietly most excited about, the way he savages the line and he wants to get to the line. That's the thing that I find most exciting about him.
I've got a couple of questions here from our viewers, Gerald, and if you can answer, what route would you likely take if you secure an Everest slot tomorrow?
Still stick to the same. At work, running the San Domenico, Run to the Rose and Golden Rose. It worked for Yes last year. History can repeat itself. And I think, you know, a 3-year-old running, especially the 3-year-olds this year, because they are good horses. There's a bunch of 3-year-olds this year. And not one of those races is going to be an easy race. So you wouldn't want to be going into Everest feeling the pinch. You want to be going in there on top of your game. And if he did get a slot tomorrow, I would still stick to the same pattern.
Okay. And that's the San Domenico, the Run to the Rose and the Golden Rose. And then the fourth victory of the campaign would be the $15 million Everest.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Unless my co-trainer wants something different.
No?
Sterling, that sounded a pretty good scenario to me, I reckon.
No, like we've said all the way along, he's been named up at the Golden Rose, and you know that little 4-week let up back in trip, you see it win a lot of grand finals. That freshen up back in trip. So you know,
He's artist.
Just got to execute it now.
He's artist coming off Doncaster, ran McGuinness 4 weeks between won the Teco Smith beating Snitzel. Yeah.
Another question here for Gerald. What does Peltzer have to do? What sort of level of improvement does Peltzer have to do to become an Everest horse?
He's improved off his trial the other day, which you needed him. When you're that far out from a race, having a trial, you want to improve.
Yeah.
But if he can be very competitive against these 3-year-olds that are coming on, well, he'd go to the Everest from there.
Okay.
Lizzie gave him a big compliment the other day. She said he looks really healthy and well, and he's got a summer coat on him. Well, when they're like that, it's Sterling's and my job now to just maintaining. You know, that's all you got to do. You know, just maintaining.
Okay, so we can everyone watching can take it as written, really, that you're happy as it could possibly be, and he's come back better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pitch after Kieran Rading work here a couple of Fridays ago, and Kieran doesn't say much. I know him well enough. I know Kieran for a long time, and he doesn't have to say much to know that he's really happy with the horse. Yeah.
I love that when I hear that. And David, I guess from an owner's point of view, and you've sort of been there and done that in that first Everest, when would you like? When's the ideal time? Yes. Got locked in only 9 days before the Everest last year. When's the ideal time for an owner to actually secure that slot?
David's got that patient too.
I'll be getting in quick. This is a chance to pitch to our everyone who buys a micro slot actually gets to vote for which horse they'd like to have in their slot.
I would say to any of the slot holders, including your prestigious group, which I do love, I would be waiting. I would be waiting a lot longer this year than past years, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because we have one horse that everybody thinks is unbeatable, if you believe the markets. And I've seen plenty of good horses not turn up for races, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And
I think the 3-year-olds this year probably hold a stronger and a deeper hold on the race, or being competitive in the race. That's probably because of the confidence everybody has that yes was good enough last year. And the form's going to be there for everybody to see. And those traditional older horses that have run in all those races the guys have mentioned, I don't know if that's going to be the imposing and confidence-building form for a slot holder that these hot 3-year-olds are going to show. And the times that they're running and the way the form's been standing up for many, many months. I mean, let's face it, we're talking about one of those as the Golden Slipper winner, and he's not being touted in the first conversations. You know, they're talking about our horse and a lot of other horses. The form this year's extraordinary amongst the 3-year-olds, and I think most of the slot holders will want to wait.
Well, that's advice, and we're going to find out, because all these boom 3-year-olds that you mentioned, David, are all coming back. I'd just like to thank everybody for their time. I know everyone works long hours, but to give our micro slot holders a little bit of an insight into this Gerald Ryan stable and the Sterling Alexiou stable, I've got to say now, it's a real treat. And let's hope that maybe, who knows, that the miEverest slot could be filled by a horse like Peltzer from the Ryan Alexiou stable. And thanks to you, David, as well. Thanks, Sterling, and thanks to you, Gerald.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget, majority of the slots are all gone, but you can form teams as well. It's $880 for your micro slot, but you can also have teams of 10 where you put $88 in, and we'll find you a team as well. So thanks to all the guys for joining us, and good luck as we continue our countdown to the $15 million tap.